2018 Informal County Commission meeting. We're going to call the meeting to order. We have 5 people that have asked to address the commission tonight, and I'll call your name in just a moment. I would just ask everybody that's addressing the commission just a few rules that we have. Number 1, please try to limit your comments to 3 minutes. You'll hear a tone go off at the 3-minute mark, and hopefully you can wrap your comments up. If you don't, I'll ask you to wrap them up. If you would, please, when you come forward, just give us your name and your address. On our agenda, we know the topic that you're speaking towards, but if you want to announce what that topic is, you may do that as well. So we'll go ahead and start off with Miss Deborah Moore. Miss Moore, if you'd please come forward to the podium. Good evening.
I hope the name and address don't count as the time, right?
No, ma'am, we won't count that as the time.
Deborah Moore, 3785 Pondywood Road, Adams, Tennessee. Honorable Mayor, County Commissioners, and guests, last year when the newspaper reported a new mega industrial site proposed in our county, many of you said that it probably wouldn't happen, so we shouldn't be concerned. However, to date, the IDB has spent $86,000 and continues to do due diligence on the site. So we in the community and the county are getting concerned. Recent past deals for big business have given millions of dollars in local incentives. There are currently 20 pilot incentive deals right now. Incentives are often as high as $80 to $100 million. For example, Google will pay no tax on its land for 20 years and no full tax on equipment and buildings until year 20. Market value of the land, about $23 million. Direct employees committed to, 34. Hancock, $50 million in local incentives and 469 acres. A couple of companies whose pilot has expired still are not paying property tax because the land has not been transferred to them. There are few, if any, clawback revisions for not meeting goals. When these massive buildings are built, they're not maximizing use of local contractors in our county, denying the county of sales and business tax revenues. We often hear the phrase, America first. I believe it's time for our county to say, Montgomery County first. To date, our county is about $322 million in debt. 82% of the workforce in the county are employed by small business, yet these small businesses receive no incentives. Only 9% of the employees work for large manufacturers, which receive almost all the tax incentives. Is that really putting Montgomery County first? School enrollment for 2017-18 increased a whopping 1,300 students, or 1.5 new schools. If a new mega industrial site comes to the county, what will that increase be then? How will the county pay for the schools, especially since local tax incentives are being given in the millions of dollars? The courthouse is finally being repaired after years of leaking, but the carpets are dirty, the bathroom fixtures are often broken, yet I walk in some of the manufacturer buildings and they're exemplary. Is that Montgomery County first? At a recent Labor and Commerce Committee meeting in Nashville regarding the Memphis megasite, the EDC announced that 25% of landowners affected by the wastewater system will need to have their property used by eminent domain. This is one of our greatest fears as property owners who live between the current business park and the proposed site as Rossview Road is widened and infrastructure is extended. Excessive urban sprawl will become a reality, yet this is our best farmland, classified as 1 and 2. We, the citizens of Montgomery County, ask that you press the pause button on a mega industrial site, work to upgrade our infrastructure and our current growth, pay down our debt, take care of our schools, our public safety, and our county. Please. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Terry Risha.
Well, I hate to follow hers because hers was real polished and mine's not as polished as speaking as hers is. But my name's Terry Risha and I'm on Pondywood Road also. And I just wanted to thank y'all for letting us speak, the three speakers that are speaking on the industrial site. I've got approximately 40 years in architectural, engineering, and design and estimating. So my topic is going to be over the infrastructure. And basically, the infrastructure that's needed would be the road widening or relocation of Rossview Road, straightening out all the elevation changes and the curves in the roads. Electric transmission, TVA is approximately 3 miles from being able to serve this site with a transmission line. So there's a transmission that has to be developed from TVA. They'll also build a substation at that site. That's more money out of the tax dollars that's going to come. CEMC will have relocation of existing electric lines and new lines to be able to feed construction temporaries and things that come along with the new mega site. Freshwater lines, there's not large enough freshwater lines in the area. Wastewater treatment and a wastewater treatment plant for the industrial waste. It will actually be probably deposited north of Port Royal, the state park, into the Red River. So all the industrial waste will be going into that from a large mega site. No natural gas in the area. High-speed internet. There's a railroad, and that's the only infrastructure in the area, but it will have to require a railroad spur and a switching yard that'll have to go along with it. That's not there now. The closest switching yard is going to be in Guthrie, which is at the Copler's plant. The other thing is there's really no real good fire, police, and EMS in that area because we're so rural at the far edge of the county. I also have, I want to show just a little bit of a map, and I don't know if most of y'all have seen the aerial photography of it. But I've tried to highlight the areas. The new mega site is proposed for right out here. And the blue lines are existing infrastructure. The red is what will have to be built. Transmission lines, roads have to be done. My thought is why are we avoiding, or why are we skipping over this vacant farmland that's against the adjacent industrial site already and going all the way out that far? So that's the one thing I'm asking is please consider this land closer instead of going that far out.
Thank you, sir. Eli Mayers.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Eli Myers, and I live on McGregor Road.
Sorry, Myers.
No, it's fine. That's okay. It's been happening my whole life. Sorry for the glasses. They're new. I hope they work all right tonight. My name is Eli Myers. Although I am not a Clarksville, Montgomery County native, I am a soldier at Fort Campbell who has had the privilege of living here for 14 years. I am speaking today about the initiative to put an industrial park on the end of McGregor Road. As a resident of McGregor Road for the past 6 years, this issue is near and dear to my heart, as well as my family and many others that I call neighbors and friends. Two areas I'd like to briefly speak about tonight are the uniqueness of this particular part of the county and the inability to keep up with current growth. Unlike many other growing cities, Clarksville has a very unique gem that makes it stand out. That gym is the east side of I-24 and includes the area around McGregor Road. In a matter of minutes, a person can be transported from the bustling city into a beautiful countryside of farmland, rolling hills, and breathtaking views. This has a very unique appeal to many people. Runners, bicyclists, motorcyclists, joyriders, kayakers, and canoers enjoy getting away from it all, clearing their heads with fresh air, and enjoying the scenery of the country roads and the Red River. I am not sure how enticing the roads will be to bicyclists, motorcyclists, and the like when they are cluttered with industrial traffic, and I'm not sure how much weekend rivergoers will enjoy the Red River once it's potentially full of industrial wastewater upstream of historic Port Royal State Park. The area also draws people who want to raise their families in a more rural setting, whether it's multi-generational family farms, small plots of land, or small communities of houses just off the beaten path. It is hard to put into words what an amazing and unique area that Clarksville, Montgomery County has to offer. After 6 years living in town, my wife and I finally began looking for a small piece of land to get away from the traffic and crowds and raise our family on the quiet and peaceful outskirts of the city we now call home. 2 years later, we purchased the home on McGregor Road. After moving there, we realized that many other people desire to take advantage of this unique area east of I-24, the area that will be directly impacted and changed forever by a mega industrial site and all the baggage that will come along with it. One needs only to look near Tylertown Road at the failed Hemlock plant and surrounding current manufacturing initiatives for a sneak peek into what those impacts could look like. This is the first concern I bring to your attention today. Next, I would like to talk about growth, infrastructure, and their impacts on the community. Undoubtedly, our area has seen mega growth in population, housing, and industry in recent years. Although this growth is positive, there are many noticeable downsides. The infrastructure hasn't kept up with current growth. Roads are riddled with bumper-to-bumper traffic. Major and exit and entry points to the interstate are close to impassable at times. Traffic accidents on major roads like Wilma Rudolph are daily, if not hourly. The schools are overcrowded. Teachers and administrators are stretched thin. The emergency room is regularly standing room only. School bus system needs more hours in the day to get kids to and from school. Crime dominates our newspaper, and there are no quick fixes in sight. Our community needs our community needs time to catch up to its current growth, to make the streets safer, make commuting more efficient, and to ease the burden on schools, emergency services, and medical care. Why embark on a major endeavor like adding another industrial site on the far boundaries of the county with all the added people, traffic, housing problems, cost to taxpayers, pollution, and stress on the system until our current infrastructure can catch up? Perhaps we should pause and slow down before we bite off more than we can already chew. In closing, I hope that you see the faces and hear the voices of many Clarksville, Montgomery County citizens who have serious concerns about this proposed site and will make sure it is in the best interest of those citizens before any other action is taken or taxpayer money is spent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Myers, and thank you for your service to our nation. Do y'all want to speak to this topic now?
No, Mayor, we
Ask
just
a
like,
question?
no, I would just like to see all those that oppose the potential IDB mega site to stand.
You need to look behind you, too.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank y'all. Next up, we have Mr. Stephen Curry.
Good evening. My name is Stephen Curry, and I live on John Taylor Road in Woodlawn. I'm here to talk about the Charter Commission's actions. I want to thank the commissioners for their time and attention to this important matter. At the November 21st, 2017 Public Charter Commission monthly meeting, they discussed the following, and I quote from the commission documents. These voters will be placed into 4 major audience subsets. Now, this is for a telephone poll survey thing. County Republicans, County Democrats, City Republicans, and City Democrats. Through these different subsets, voters will be identified and tagged as yes, no, or unsure on whether or not they support consolidation. They will also be identified and tagged with conversion messaging, such as, would you support consolidation if you knew that it would save county residents outside the city limits tax dollars and make government more efficient? Each conversion message will be tailored to the specific audience subset. The goal is to position county voters against city voters and vice versa, while pushing vote yes as the solution to their problems with one another. During this process, the team will also be introducing generic favorable vote yes messages to the voters. End of quotation from the plan. This is outrageous. It is not the job of the Charter Commission to do voter analysis. It is not their job to brazenly try and sway our votes. And it is especially not their job to discuss vote yes materials at a public meeting. Whether they are successful in getting the county to pay for any of this, these discussions should have never taken place at a Charter Commission meeting. The commission talks about uniting our community, yet in the survey plan, they want to pit city people against county people. How hypocritical. Several members of this charter commission are also members of the committee for a United Community Political Action Committee. Katie Gamble, the chair of this commission, is a member of the PAC. Bob Yates is the treasurer of that PAC. Don Jenkins and Charlie Faust are also members of the PAC. That means that 30% of the commission members are also members of a private PAC that is pushing hard to pass this consolidation. In the Leaf Chronicle article last week, or a couple weeks ago, on the telephone survey, Bob Yates had the audacity to say it's not a conspiracy or an attempt by members of the Charter Commission to overstep their roles, their official roles. Don't insult my intelligence. No, they didn't just overstep. They jumped with both feet. They openly discussed using telephone polls to convert our votes to yes and create vote yes messaging at a public Charter Commission meeting. Even before the new charter is written, they're talking about trying to convert to yes. It's obvious to me that this PAC is driving this Charter Commission. People talk about Trump and Russia collusion. Well, there is collusion right here in Montgomery County, and it is recorded in the minutes of a publicly constituted government body. Whether the Charter Commission has broken any state laws, we'll let the state campaign and elections agency decide that. I have filed a complaint with that agency to investigate this issue. And this week, I have now learned that in mid-January, the Charter Commission has spent $25,000 of county tax money to pay for these polls, ostensibly to learn what the public wants in the new charter. Will this be another push poll that tries to convince us to vote yes? This needs to stop now.
Mr. Curry, if you would, please try to wrap your comments up.
Yep, I'm done right now. We have over 75 people that have signed a petition to shut this down, and I am asking the commissioners to disband this committee and take the money back that has been spent. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Don Jenkins. Commissioner Redd, do you have a question for the gentleman that spoke?
Well, I was just going to ask if we could have all the people that was opposed to the Metro Consolidated Government, if they could stand, like we did on the other issue, please.
Mr. Jenkins?
I'm Don Jenkins, 404 Rushton Lane, Clarksville, Tennessee. Thank you, County Commissioners and Mayor Dart, for letting us address you. I think there's a lot of confusion now about what the Charter Commission is, and it's all formed by state law. And by state law, the county mayor appoints 10 people to the Charter Commission, the city mayor appoints 5. So we have 15 people on this Charter Commission. And there's basically 4 things that we have on the Charter Commission. I'll just read exactly why it's been established and why this is according to state law, and state law is very specific about it. The Charter Commission is an autonomous after it's been formed. So we don't answer to the city mayor and we don't answer to the county mayor after we were formed. The charter is written and agreed to by the Charter Commission. We are to deliver it once we all approve it to the clerk. The Charter Commission can employ anyone that we need to for any purpose for gathering information, etc. The rules are few and general in nature, and it's for a very specific reason, so that the Charter Commission can be free of outside pressures, so that in the best chance the charter will reflect the interests of the citizenry. So I'd like to address the PAC and what's happened. First of all, I'd like to thank the County Commission for the $50,000 to investigate the ability to make a charter and also to fund research for it. So on our first meeting, we decided we'd split it in half. $25,000 would go for research for the citizens of Montgomery County to find out what the citizens wanted. The next $25,000 we were going to use for the legal work to process a legal charter. So at the same time, we had a fundraiser at Old Glory, and we did that for marketing, to be able to market and get information out to the people. How do you get the information out was the thing that we looked at. Obviously, we can't afford broadcast TV. We can't afford cable TV. The newspaper, a little expensive. Not everybody reads the newspaper. And we finally determined that digitally was probably going to be the best way to reach people. And I think what we've all got to look at is the growth. I mean, we've talked about on this mega site, the first three speakers, about the growth that's going to occur in Clarksville, Tennessee. And that's really what metropolitan government will address. The projected population in 2040 is 308,000 people in Clarksville. Now, that 308,000 people, I don't think really includes the growth that Nashville's having right now. Nashville's exploding. We've got a lot of people from Nashville that Clarksville's becoming a bedroom community, and they're traveling to and from their jobs in Nashville. This is growth that we're going to experience. Right now, we've got approximately 145,000 people in the city limits and 55,000 in the county for a total of 200,000. The other 108,000 people that will be coming in by 2040 will not be coming into the city because we're out of space in the city. So what we really need is a blueprint for growth so that we know what's going to happen to our city. The Northeast Corridor was something that we talked about that we'd like to have to help relieve some of the congestion on our roads. Yet subdivisions had already been bought. It couldn't go through a subdivision, and so it could not come across. So the bottom line is on that is that it was a road that had we had planning ahead of time on either side, we could have had a path through there where we could relieve some congestion. I think all of us, when you came to this meeting tonight, any of the streets that you go on, they're incredibly crowded right now. And we read in the paper today about that instead of being 20 years away, that maybe we can get some of the roads on Trenton Road and the interstate 374 done in 12 years instead of 20 years. But 12 years is even too late. So I can tell you that I'll speak for the 15 people on this commission.
And wrap it up with those 15 if you don't mind. You're a little over.
Well, you got to understand, Jim, we've got probably thousands of hours invested in this already. And the key thing that I can tell you is that we're all passionate about doing what we can to improve Clarksville, Montgomery County. We all love our city, and there's no lines in us. There's not a city side and a county side. It's a united side. And we appreciate the opportunity to address the commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jenkins. All right. We have next up with what? Commissioner Johnson, do you have a question for Mr. Jenkins?
Actually, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to, if we could go back to the first three speakers that we had about the IDB megasite. It may be a bit out of protocol, but if that would be all right.
Do you have specific questions for him?
No, sir.
Okay, you just have a comment.
Yes.
Okay. I'm with you.
First, I just wanted to let the people from District 19 know that we appreciate you coming out to let us know how you feel about this particular topic. Ms. Moore, Mr. Risha, and Mr. Mayor, we appreciate your words. I was at the community meeting about this some months ago, and I don't believe there's any secret my feelings on this subject. And like I said, this may be a bit out of protocol, but I feel it's necessary that I say it. There are a lot of things that I feel are important, and one of the things that are at the top of that list is peace of mind. And I appreciate progress, and I understand its place, and I understand its necessity. But when you begin to affect what a person has put their life's work into, when you begin to affect a person's peace of mind, when you begin to affect their security in where their home is and how they live and their way of life, then I don't feel that's progress anymore. I believe that progress that takes away the peace of mind of the citizens is not progress, it is injustice. Thank you.
Thank you. We have. I would welcome any of the group that would like to stay for the rest of our meeting, but we'll take a short recess if some of you would like to leave before we get into our business. It's totally up to each and every one of you. To the podium. You're next on our agenda. Commissioners, at this time, I'd like to welcome our Director of Schools, Mr. Millard House. I think you're going to give us an update on Clarksville Montgomery County School System. Good to have you here tonight.
Absolutely, Mayor
Look
Durrett.
forward to taking you down on the 17th in our free throw shooting contest.
Okay, I wasn't going to say anything at all.
I understand you play college basketball too. It's going to make the victory that much better.
Good deal, good deal. And I'm going to personally invite, at this point, invite everybody out to just watch and see for themselves. Absolutely.
Mr. House, the floor is yours.
Absolutely. I think I have a presentation that should be popping up as well. Let's see. No. That's not it. That's the wrong one. That's for me. Oh. That's the wrong one. Which one would you like? Let me get one of you. Mayor, we have a technical difficulty in reference to the presentation. So what I'm going to do is just go old school. And first of all, thank you as well as commissioners for to present today. What I did probably 6 months ago, 5 to 6 months ago, is I came to the commission and really talked about a plan to get out into the community, to get to know the community. In doing so, I developed 4 simple goals. And I'd like to walk you through exactly what that's looked like over the last 4 or 5 months. My goal was to go at least 100 days throughout the school year and then go back out into the community to let the community know what I've learned as a new school director, what our focus is going to be, what our mission continues to be, and what the way forward looks like for the Clarksville Montgomery County School District. The 4 goals that I concentrated on in getting to know this community were simple. The first goal was to focus on staff community and school board in terms of community relations. And I've had an opportunity, of course, to get to know my school board and develop those protocols in terms of communication. Also had the opportunity on several occasions to get out into the community through surveys, through different groups that we brought together to focus our efforts on what our mission will be continuing forward. The second goal was simply what I'm doing today, is effective communication. Doing whatever's possible to ensure that we're hearing from constituents, we're hearing from parents, we're hearing from as many community members as possible in terms of what they feel is important in terms of our school system moving forward. The third goal was just a better understanding of CMCSS. As I've learned, we are a wonderful community and we are a wonderful school district as well. And we're a school district that has done some incredible things. We've scored in the top 5 to 10% of school districts in the state of Tennessee, and my expectations and goals moving forward is that we will do even better moving forward. So I look to take us not only to being one of the best school districts in Clarksville, in Tennessee, but one of the best school districts in the nation. The third goal that we focused on was just a better understanding from a data standpoint of who we are as a school district as well. What I can tell you is that we're a very diverse school district, and our focus is to appreciate that diversity moving forward. What I also can tell you is that we're a school district that has performed at a high level. We have a 95.1% graduation rate. About 60% of our students move forward and go to traditional colleges. And what I mean by traditional colleges are four-year universities like Austin Peay, as well as Nashville State and others. About 40% of our students move on and do something a little bit different, whether it's in industry or technical trade as well. And I'll talk about that here in just a little bit more. One of the things that was talked about earlier was the growth here in Clarksville, Montgomery County. That's a big piece of the pie that we're going to focus on, and we've worked very closely with Mayor Durrett, as well as the Education Committee, and hearing what our focus is as a school district and what our needs are. And we've been excited about that communication and exactly where we're going as a school district. We've grown by about 2,500 students in the last about 2 years. And that growth is indicative of what's going on here in Clarksville, Montgomery County, as well as the school district as well. Just a snapshot of what things look like, and at some point I'd love to bring my presentation back that I prepared for you and give that to you. I hate we're having the technical difficulties, but the 5 or 6 items that we're going to focus on moving forward, which is most important. Number 1, the planning and growth that we're having in the school district. Number 2, strengthening our portfolio. And you may ask yourself, what does that mean? Well, we want to focus our efforts on ensuring that we have great options for our students. In the past, we've had some great options, but we want to expand that portfolio. To give you an example, just this past week, we've signed two contracts. One contract with Austin Peay State University that will allow up to about 150 students to acquire their associate's degree on the same day they essentially graduate from high school. It's our middle college high school, and we're extremely excited about it. We've had the middle college high school over the course of the last several years, but we didn't have this particular element in place that would allow them to get their associate's degree. The second contract that we recently signed was with TCAT, and it will allow for a brand new school to start on the campus of TCAT next year, and it will be a Clarksville, Montgomery County school. This school will allow students to, in their 11th and 12th grade year, get the necessary credit hours to not only graduate from high school, but also to graduate with certifications that will allow them to step right out in the industry and be career ready. Opportunities that can bring them prosperity in terms of salary and livable wages as they walk out of the doors of their homes. We also are starting a brand new school in conjunction at one of our elementary schools, which will be a language immersion program, which will allow kids elementary age, starting at kindergarten to be completely bilingual by the time 5th grade rolls around. So those are just 3 examples of us expanding our portfolio. We're in conversation about some other items. Those particular 3 items that I just mentioned will kick off in August. We also, in terms of next steps in the school district, are going to focus our attention in terms of literacy at an early age. And when I say at an early age, we're not just talking about pre-K. We want to do more as a school district in reaching out to expecting mothers even, to ensure that they understand what the necessary pieces of literacy are and ensuring that they understand at an early age exactly what's necessary between the age of 1 and 4 years old before they get to school. Because there are a lot of things that during those stages of their life that they have to focus on, and we want to help parents do that. So there'll be a focus in that particular area as well. We also want to continue our technology integration. Many of you may know that we've kicked off one-to-one technology in the Clarksville-Montgomery County School District, and our middle school students actually have a laptop put in their hands every day when they get to school, and they check that laptop back in after they leave school. High school students are actually taking technology home on a daily basis. They're provided with a laptop, and they take that technology home. We're looking to expand that even more. At the state level, there are requirements that push school districts in the state of Tennessee to do all of their standardized testing electronically. So we're adhering to state standards, but we're also adhering to what we believe is good for students in integrating technology consistently. Lastly, one of our major goals moving forward is to continue being a valued partner, continue communicating, and continue ensuring that our constituents are happy with the growth, development of their children moving forward. And Mayor Durd, with that said, commissioners, with that said, I'd be happy to answer any questions and offer any additional insights if needed.
Well, thank you, Mr. House. Any commissioners have any questions? Mr. House? Ms. Tooley?
Mr. House, just wanted to, you skipped a page about recruiting, and I had a question about the majorities and the minorities. What are we doing for recruitment of diverse teachers' workforce?
Yep. So as a school district that is about 49% minority, we feel it's going to be necessary for us moving forward to concentrate our efforts on having a more diverse workforce. We're about 3% minority workforce in the district, and we moved forward early in the school year to develop a plan to apply for a grant through the state, which was a minority recruitment grant. Unfortunately, we didn't get the grant, but we've moved forward with our plans anyway. So we're developing relationships with some historically black colleges. We're also developing some relationships with some other universities in and out of the state to increase the number of minority candidates that we have on the table. So our HR department is going through quite a bit right now. We're also developing exploring our teacher ed program within the school district. We want to find those students in high school that are interested in the teaching profession and ensure that we can coach them along the way. Those are individuals that can come back and possibly become teacher assistants or ed assistants, eventually maybe even teachers, certified teachers eventually. So we want to coach them along the way and develop what it is the possibility that they could become valued individuals in this community as educators. So those are just a couple items. Again, my presentation walked through some of these things, but I'm kind of blind at this particular time. Sorry.
Thank you for that answer. What about your administrators? That's down 12%, and your minority is 88%. Are you trying to get recruitment for your clerical administrators also?
Absolutely. That's across the board that we're looking at recruitment efforts. So yes, we definitely are focusing there as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other commissioners have a question of Mr. House? I apologize for the technical difficulties. You did an awesome job. And if you'd like to come back next Monday night and give your full presentation, I'm sure the commission and I know myself would welcome that if you'd like to.
Absolutely. I may just give it on the free throw line while I'm beating you next week. So we'll just, whatever it takes. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. House. All right, next up is our zoning. We have two zonings before us tonight. Just for those in attendance, what we'll do is we'll hear from the staff. Our commissioners will be able to ask the staff any particular questions related to the case, and then we'll go into a public on each of the two zoning cases to hear comments from the public. We'll call on people to speak in favor of the application and also give anyone that likes to speak in opposition. So with that being said, John T., I think they're working on your presentation, but when you get ready, you're ready.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. We have two zoning cases. The first one is CZ1 2018. It's the application of Tina, Oregon. The request is to go from agricultural district to R2D. This property is located at the Sango Drive and Old Sango Road intersection. It encompasses right at 2 acres. It's 1.99 plus or minus. This would not be an extension of the R2 zoning or R2D zoning classification. And I want to take this time to elaborate. R2D is not a very popular zoning classification. It's probably been the most popular question we received. R2D is a 1 and 2 family residential zoning district. It's the equivalent to, for single family, to R2, which is in the city limits. For a 9,000 square foot lot, and it does allow for duplexes on a 15,000 square foot lot. Applicant's statement for proposed use is to rezone to R2D to create 3 residential lots. As I said earlier, it is on the east frontage of Sango Drive, east of the Sango Drive and Old Sango Road intersection. Currently, the property has 2 structures, one of which is non-conforming with required setbacks. On the aerial, you'll see there is a large pond on the back of the property. On page 2 of the staff report, there was a comment received from the Building and Codes Department, and we have received some public comments regarding the soil conditions in the area and the pond that's in the rear of the property. Building and Codes indicated that the wet soil conditions could possibly have to be remediated during the construction phase, and as it was explained to me, that could require some substantial footing upgrades with the property. On page 3 of the staff report, the applicant's estimate of 3 lots is in line with our historical estimates, stating as which the R2D is not a very popular zone, so we don't have a lot of historical data that goes with that, but it is in the Sango planning area, and the staff's recommendation is for approval with the 4 reasons have listed with the recommendation. And then the next page of your staff report is the aerial overview, shows the zoning in question. I do know we had some other questions that came up during this process of how R2D is in character with the area. You do have R4, which is a multifamily district, but it does allow single-family duplexes and triplexes to the north. You also have it to the west, southwest, and then you have R3 that's a little further on the southwest. And I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions of Mr. Spainhoward on CZ1 2018? Commissioner Genus?
Just a real quick one. Does this mean that you want to put 3 duplexes into this area? Is that what I'm hearing? You said 3 structures, and that means
That's
6
a good question.
families?
I would defer that question to the actual owner and developer. What I can tell you is there's not enough frontage there to allow more than 2 duplex lots. It would accommodate 3 single-family lots or a combination thereof. You have to have 100 linear foot of road frontage for a duplex and 75 for a single-family dwelling, and they're only at about 240 feet, I believe.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions of Mr. Spainhoward? All right. John T., CZ2 2018, application of Phyllis Casebolt, request from AG Agricultural District to R1 Single Family District.
As you stated, it's the application of Phyllis Casebolt. This property does encompass right at 7.5 acres, 7.41 plus or minus acres. This is an extension of the R1 zoning classification. The applicant's statement for proposed use is to conform with the nearby developed neighborhoods in order to develop approximately 9 lots. It's located at the southwest corner of Charles Bell Road and the Dunlop Lane intersection. As you can see here on the aerial photograph, here's a photograph right at that intersection looking into the property. As stated in the staff report, it is an existing level agricultural field. The extension of the R1 zoning classification is in the rear. You see the rooftops there located with the adjoining subdivision. The next page of the staff report, there were no department comments of any concern. It does state that there's no sewer available, but the sewer is directly adjacent to this property. On page 8 of the staff report, I will point out it's in the Rossview Road planning area and the staff's recommendation for approval with the 4 reasons listed below that. The next page on the staff report is the aerial zoning map overview that's currently on the screen. And then you should also have a copy of an email that was received in reference to this case where there was an adjoining property owner in opposition. It's not included in the staff report, but right before going into the Planning Commission meeting, the property owner that's to the west called and voiced their recommendation for approval of the request, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions of Mr. Spain-Howard for CZ2 2018? Commissioner Johnson?
Did you say that there was opposition from the neighboring property owners?
The property that's,
Like under road on Charles Bell?
it's internal of the subdivision. That's R1, the property that's kind of off the corner there, and then the property due north to that one.
Can you point to it with your mouse? Or Skip or somebody?
I can.
You can't?
Well, is it not working? Oh, that doesn't work anymore? I'd climb up there, but they all may laugh at me if I fail. Yes. Right here? This property right here was in opposition, and this one was in favor.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Sokol?
Thank you, Mayor. There's a staff recommendation that says no adverse environmental issues were identified relative to this request. Is there any effort to study the stormwater effects once this property is being developed?
Yes, there is. There's a public comment sheet sent to all the affected departments, including the ones that are reviewed for the drainage. Going back to the other zoning case, that's where we received the comment about the wet soil conditions. In this case, there were none indicated. There are no sinkholes on this property. And during the subdivision phase, they will have additional comments and stormwater requirements they'll have to meet during the development phase.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, sir, Commissioner Nichols, sorry.
John, is this sewer or is it?
This will be an extension of the city sewer that's in the area, is my understanding.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Spain-Howard, thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, we're going to go into public hearing to hear public comments regarding case CZ1 2018, application of Tina Oregon from AG to R2D. At this time, I will call on anyone in the audience that would like to speak on behalf of CZ1 2018. I would just ask that you remember our rules. If you were here earlier, try to limit your comments to 3 and give us your name and address, and if you're representing the owner or whatever.
Good evening. I'm Hunter Organ. My wife and I own 201 Sango Drive. We actually live at 253 Sango Drive, which is one property over. Just like we're just trying to go from ag to R2D to get 3 residential lots or 2 duplexes. As you saw in the picture, it's an old block building, and I promise you what we're going to do is going to really help the people around us and go from there. So I appreciate y'all's consideration.
Any questions of Mr. Organ? Mr. Harper?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Organ?
Yes.
Appreciate you being here tonight.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Just a quick question. You intend to comply and make it compatible with the existing neighborhood, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Definitely.
okay. And just for the commissioners to note, in District 15, which is where this is at, typically if there's any opposition to a zoning case, I hear about it quite loud and quite frequently. I've received no response from anyone regarding this, so just letting you know.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Any other questions of Mr. Organ? All right, thank you, sir. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak on behalf of CZ1 2018? Anyone else to speak on behalf? Is there anyone in the audience to speak in opposition to CZ1 2018? If you would, please come forward.
Good evening. I apologize if I'm nervous. My family, we live off on Wilson Way Estates.
Would you mind giving us your name, please,
Sure, I
ma'am?
apologize. My name is Megan Matthews. My husband and my children and myself live in the neighborhood catty corner from the property, the CZ1-2018. Our address is 3200 Austin Bryan Court. Our home backs right onto Sango Drive. And we do agree that any improvement to the lot would be an improvement. So they've torn down a lot of growth that's come up, so it's definitely been an improvement. I'm just going to read my notes, if that's okay. My family and I, we would prefer, if possible, to be single-family homes built there on the lot as opposed to duplexes. Multifamily homes statistically have a higher turnover rate, which doesn't encourage stability in a neighborhood, whereas if a single-family home would. Property values also can be affected. Research shows that a multifamily property does not appreciate in value as much as a single-family home does. We agree and are thankful for the way the current owners have cleaned up the current lot, but we would be concerned with duplexes going in there instead of single-family homes. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Is anyone else in the audience to speak on behalf of CZ1 or in opposition to CZ1 2018? All right, at this time, we're going to close the public hearing for CZ1 2018. We'll now go into public hearing for CZ2 2018, application of Phyllis Casebolt from AG to R1. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on behalf of CZ2 2018?
Thank you, Commissioners. Good evening. I'm Bryce Powers. My address is 2357 Hematite Road in Palmyra. I'm the agent for the property owner who is with me tonight if you have questions for her as well. We're requesting this zone change in order to develop 9 lots as was presented in the staff report. We requested the R1 zoning because it is the same zoning in the adjacent subdivision of Boyer Farms and also the Hartley Hills, which is to the west of that. So we're trying to stay in character with the neighborhood, neighborhoods around. I will note there will be no physical connection between this 9-lot subdivision and Boyer Farms, no roadway connection there. These will be accessed off Charles Bell and Dunlop. As mentioned, it will be on sanitary sewer. We have already received City Council Gas and Water Committee approval of extension of that. Of course, we have to go through the design phase to get that, but we have the city's approval to make those extensions. Be glad to answer any questions you might have for me. As I mentioned, if you have questions for Ms. Casebolt, she's here as well, and we would ask for your approval of this rezoning.
Any questions of Mr. Powers? All right, thank you, sir. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak on behalf of CZ2 2018? Anyone else to speak on behalf? Is there anyone in the audience to speak in opposition to CZ2 2018?
I am Lisa Tice. I live at 3141 Carrie Taylor, which is in Boyer Farms. I am the person that backs up that we were pointing to.
Okay.
So
Thank you, ma'am.
I am not necessarily in opposition because I understand that, I just assumed that farmland would be converted to some sort of residential at some point. My concern is that with 9 lots in that area, the person speaking that talked about, from, I believe, the zoning commission, he said that it was a level lot. It is not entirely level. The back end of it, which comes back into my lot and into a couple of the other Boyer Farm lots, it goes downward, and that is where my concern is that if that becomes too built up, that those lots will end up taking the runoff from the backside and into our lots. I brought some pictures, but I have no way of showing them, but I do have some pictures.
Well, you're welcome to pass them around.
Okay. So, the line is trying to describe how it backs up, and you can see the slope to it. There's another thing to the, it's east or west, I apologize. But next to my lot is a flood zone. Next to my lot is a flood zone, and I have concerns that if that part, if the top part of that farmland is developed, that the runoff will cause mine and the connecting to be included in the flood zone, that will affect our land, which is obviously, I bought that piece of land so that it wasn't in a flood zone. So I just want to make sure that we are considering how it affects the land that's next to it. So I'll pass that piece around. The concern with the 9 lots, I am not familiar with how planning on setting it up with the 9 lots, but when I envisioned houses being built, I assumed maybe 4 or 5 lots, which would allow there to be grassland behind or some sort of mitigation to control runoff. And I am not a runoff control person, but I just know that grassland would mitigate the runoff more than streets or paved areas where the houses are. So that is my main concern, is how the lot would be set up and how the lots would be set up and to control that runoff.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions? All right, thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else in the audience that'd like to speak in opposition to CZ2 2018? Mr. Powers, I have a question. I'm glad you stepped up to the microphone. Is there a 100-year basin? Is there some type of elevation in there in Boyer Farms?
Towards the southwest of this property, yes, there's at the entrance of Boyer Farms is a fairly significant.
Will your property, will this development drain that away?
It will drain that direction, but to answer your question, we're not going to be building any roads. The only dirt moving we're going to do would be simply for the construction of houses and driveways.
So all yours are frontage on Dunlop and Charles Bell?
That's correct. And, and of course, the county codes department will regulate any runoff we do produce, but we're not building roads and increasing impervious areas greatly. And it's important to note, too, these lots are larger than, 9 lots on 7.5 acres is going to be larger lots than the Boyer Farms lot. So we are providing some additional backyards, and I'm happy to meet with her and show her our layout.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Anyone else in the audience to speak in opposition to CZ2 2018? All right, at this time, we'll close our public hearing. We'll now go into our resolutions. we'll give the folks that were here for the zoning, if they want to leave, we'll give them a minute or two to leave if they choose to. All right, Commissioners, our first resolution is 1821, resolution of the Montgomery County Board of Commissioners appropriating funds for the construction of a classroom addition at Minglewood Elementary School. Without objection, I'm going to read all four of these, and we can talk about these as a group. 1822 is the resolution of the Board of Commissioners appropriating funds for the construction of classroom additions at Barker's Mill Elementary School. 1823 is a resolution of the Board of Commissioners appropriating funds for the construction of a classroom addition at Northeast Middle School. And resolution 1824, resolution of Montgomery County Board of Commissioners appropriating funds for the construction of 12 classroom addition, auxiliary gym, and cafeteria renovations at Northeast High School. Any discussion on any of those four resolutions? Commissioner Sokol.
Thank you, Mayor. Never mind.
Okay. I might add that the school system bid these four projects. My numbers may not be exactly right, but I think it was about $15.7 million that we funded for these. It came in about $1.2 million under budget, which is great news for us. And so I wanted to pass that along to you. Resolution 18-5 is a resolution to retain a delinquent tax attorney for tax year 2016. That again will be Mr. Jay Runyon. I was going to say Frank J, but it's Ray Runyon. I'm sorry. Any questions on 1825? 1826 is a resolution approving and authorizing the county mayor to undertake efforts to rename a portion of Highway 79 to LG Highway. Any questions on 1826? All right, 1827, resolution to authorize and appropriate funds for an actuarial study to determine the liability associated with allowing certain eligible employees and former employees of a political subdivision to establish retirement credit for service rendered by such employees prior to the participation in the Tennessee Consolidated Retirement System. That says a whole lot. It's an actuarial study for the employees of the Industrial Development Board and the Convention and Visitors Bureau. It is only a study that will be funded by those two organizations. Any questions? Resolution 1828 is a resolution of Montgomery County, Tennessee, authorizing, approving, and directing the employment of certain law firms to represent the community in potential litigation against contributions of opioid addiction crisis. I'll explain this. If some of you have some questions, I may have to let Tim offer them. There's several communities around the nation that have filed a class action lawsuit against the manufacturers of these opioids, and basically we're joining one of those lawsuits. Mr. Harvey's done some research on the firm that we're going to join with. There's no clawback provisions to Montgomery County. If we win, the difference will be that those funds will be directed, our portion of those funds or our portion of the damages will be directed directly towards Montgomery County. They won't go through the state, much like the tobacco settlement money did. So basically the dollars that we're awarded will come directly to Montgomery County to help us hopefully recoup some of the expenses that we've had in fighting the opioid addiction crisis. There is no charge to us whatsoever. If in fact the rule, if in fact when it goes to court and if the judges rule in our favor, the attorney fees will come off the top and then we'll get our share along with the other communities. Tim, I don't know if there's anything you want to add.
Only thing I would say is it's attorney's fees and expenses.
And expenses.
If there's a recovery, but.
Only and if there is a recovery.
That's correct.
Any questions? All right, Resolution 1829 is a resolution to terminate existing interlocal agreement with the City of Clarksville to provide additional funds to the Montgomery County Tourist Commission. Commissioners, right now, state law regarding hotel motel tax clearly defines that Montgomery County had the right to charge a hotel motel tax. I think originally it was 2%, now it's 5%. And the law specifically says that 50% of it will go to the Tourist Commission, which is our Convention and Visitors Bureau, and 25% will go to the City of Clarksville, and 25% will go to Montgomery County. Montgomery County and the City of Clarksville entered into an interlocal agreement in 2005 to continue to give the Convention and Visitors Bureau 50%, but each of those entities, the City of Clarksville and Montgomery County, gave the Convention and Visitors Bureau additional 5% of their 25%. So basically the split is 60-40, with the commission, the Tourism Commission getting 60%, City gets 20%, Montgomery County gets 20%. That interlocal agreement is perpetual, with the exception of either party can, with proper notification, can terminate that effective March 1 of any calendar year, but the agreement will stay whole through the end of the fiscal year. And so it's our desire to terminate that existing interlocal agreement. It's our desire to keep the tourism whole from where they are from a funding standpoint, but I think it allows us some flexibility. If we decide to move forward on some things, it allows us some flexibility to move forward on some things. So if there's any questions, I'll try to answer them, or maybe Mr. Harvey can. All right, under our reports, nominating committee nominations, Mr. Nichols.
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioners, the nominating committee met this evening. We have the Community Health Foundation and the Museum Board nominations. We have on the Health Foundation, it's a 3-year term. We have Vincent Pickney nominated to replace Ben Kimbrough for a 3-year term to expire February 2021. Mark Benachek nominated to replace Priscilla Story for a 3-year term to expire February 2021. And Marcos, Mayor, you have to help me with that.
Aaron Sibia.
Aaron Sidia nominated to serve another 3-year term to expire February 2021. And Ms. Kay Smalley nominated to serve another 3-year term to expire February 2021. That's the nominations for the Community Health Foundation. And we have one nominee, Wes Summers, nominated to replace Tom Creech for a 3-year term to expire February 2021, which is also a 3-year term. And that's all the nominations, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Nichols. Under County Mayor nominations and appointments, we'll have, and these will all require votes, the Animal Control Committee, Shanna Grice with Sheriff's Office, nominated to replace Mike Oliver for a 2-year term to expire January 2020. Judicial Commissioner Robert L. Peterson, part-time position, nominated to replace Cheryl A. Connor for a 1-year term expiring February of 2019. Under the Clarksville-Montgomery County Insurance Trust, Kelly Jackson is appointed as a Montgomery County employee to serve a 4-year term to expire February 2022. Deputy Chief John Smith is appointed as a Montgomery County employee to serve a 4-year term to expire February 2022. Jeff Taylor appointed as a Montgomery County employee to serve a 4-year term expiring 2022. And Tim Swaw is appointed to serve a 4-year term to expire 2022. And that's all of the county mayor appointments. Any questions? All right, on to our reports. You'll see we have 8 reports filed. If you'll see items number 3 and 4, we'll need approval at the commission meeting next Monday night. Any old business? All right, we have a few announcements. Just a reminder that you're invited to tour the City Forum located at Miss Lucille's on Madison Street tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Trent and Dana Knight are very excited to share with you their plans for this awesome facility that's going to open up. If you just go in the entrance of Miss Lucille's, they'll take you through the building around to the back. On Thursday, February 8th from 11 to 1, there'll be a chili cook-off between myself and Mr. House, our director of schools at Civic Hall. I'm going to beat him in that as well as the basketball. You can purchase your chili for $5. The details are explained in an email that you should have received from Miss Michelle Newell. And then on Saturday, February 17th at 7 p.m. during halftime at the Austin P. Jacksonville State ball game, myself and our director of schools, Mr. House, will square off with a free throw contest to benefit United Way, and those details are also explained to you in an email from Michelle. Two more announcements. On March 5th, beginning at 4, prior to the commission meeting, there'll be a 4-H fundraiser chili supper in the large conference room. It's a wonderful opportunity to meet some of our 4-Hers and them to meet you and also to support them as well. They'll also have exhibits in the room highlighting what our Ag Extension Office has accomplished in 2017, and that chili is $5 a bowl as well. And just a reminder, County Government Day is scheduled for March 12 and 13 in Nashville. That falls on our formal commission night. The formal meeting will remain on the 12th at 6 o'clock p.m. And with that being said, Commissioner Harper.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick question. Do we have any progress on hiring an animal control director to report?
We completed, I think, what'll be our final interview today. So we're going to sit down and get our heads together and probably select somebody tomorrow morning.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, we're adjourned. Thank y'all.